name is JP, and I'm the research manager at Democracy North Carolina. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to go over a quick recap of the data so far for this election period, mainly looking at early voting returns. So a quick note on understanding election terms real quick. What we're going to look at first is voter turnout. So voter turnout describes all of the ballots cast out of all of the voters registered in North Carolina, as opposed to vote share, which is describing the ballots cast by a particular group out of all of the ballots cast. So if you want to think about it visually, a vote share is going to look more like a pie that we're slicing up, where voter turnout is going to be the number of ballots cast out of all registered voters in North Carolina. So the first thing we'll look at is same-day registration. Watauga County saw the highest rate of same-day registration this election period so far, with usage at 4%, followed by Durham, Mecklenburg, and rural Hope County at 3%. It's worth noting that Watauga County is home to Appalachian State, so probably some students using that SDR feature. 18 to 25-year-olds used SDR at the highest rate among all age groups, with about 7% choosing to vote on the same day that they registered, or registered on the same day that they vote. Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander is a new racial category in the North Carolina State Board of Election files. And this group actually used same-day registration higher than any other group, with 25% choosing to use same-day registration. And finally, voters who marked undesignated or two or more races were the next highest racial groups to use same-day registration. So all of this highlights that young people and people of color benefit most from same-day registration. So a quick look at statewide turnout. Here we have our daily look at turnout across the early voting period. So you'll see that the first weekend and the first few days of early voting, some peaks through the middle of the second week of early voting, some more peaks again. But what we always want to emphasize here at DemNC and across North Carolina is that the last weekend of early voting clearly is the most used out of every day during the early voting period. So we really appreciate your continued advocacy for those weekend and weekend voting hours. Voter turnout by race. So as of this morning, statewide voter turnout is at 26%. Black voters have turned out the highest, with 21% of registered Black voters having cast a ballot so far. 17% of registered Asian voters have cast ballots so far, which is continuing a trend that we highlighted in our 2020 Election Day recap of Asian voters actually being the highest growth in terms of voter turnout. Finally, 14% of registered white voters have turned out so far. Quick look at voter turnout by age. Statewide, voters age 66 and highest are the age group that have voted the most, with about 34% of those folks having cast ballots so far. Voters age 41 to 65 have cast 27% of their votes, while 26 to 40-year-olds have cast 12% of their vote. And turnout across the state is at there's a typo here, 26%, with many rural counties actually leading the way. So this is an interesting trend that we don't often see during the early voting period, that rural counties have higher turnout. The following counties have over 30% turnout so far: Yancey, Transylvania, Granville, Alexander, Allegheny, and Bladen counties. The suburban county of Chatham, which is mostly Chapel Hill, but also some rural areas around Chapel, has the highest overall turnout in the state, with 37% of voters having cast a ballot so far. Finally, I want to look at the state's two largest counties, Wake and Mecklenburg. Wake is barely keeping up with the statewide average, hovering around 23%, while Mecklenburg is a bit lower at 20% turnout so far. So hopefully some increased turnout today on election day. Now I want to take a quick look at some vote share numbers from our friends at Southern Coalition for Social Justice. So again, when we're looking at this data, this is all of the ballots cast and the percent of how those ballots break down by, in this case, party. So out of all the ballots cast, about 37% of those ballots have been cast by Democrats, about 32% have been cast by Republicans, and about 30% have been cast by unaffiliated voters. Unaffiliated voters being the largest political party in North Carolina. Here we're looking at the vote share by race. Again, you can see that Black voters have a higher proportion compared to the Black population in North Carolina. But looking at all of the ballots cast, most ballots have been cast by white voters. Here we're looking at, I apologize for the glare, voting vote shares by age. So again, you can see that looking at all of the ballots cast, earlier I said that the highest turnout was in the 66 and up category, but here you can see that out of all the ballots cast, most ballots were cast by 41 to 65-year-olds. And then finally, wanted to take a look at ballots cast by gender. We have had, out of all ballots cast, over 50% cast by women, followed by 42% roughly cast by men. And finally, just wanted to put my information up here for you. My name is JP. Again, you can reach me at the email listed here. And I had support today from our friends at Southern Coalition for Social Justice. You can reach them by reaching out to Chris Ketchy over there. And now I'm happy to take any questions that y'all have, and hopefully I can answer. And if you have a question, you can go ahead and come off mute. And one last time, I would just like to thank you all for tuning in today. And I do have a couple more minutes if you have any questions. Otherwise, again, you can reach me at my information here, or our friends at SCSJ, Chris Ketchy, can help you with some of that vote share data.
We have a question.
Okay.
What was the turnout in 2018 versus this year?
So in 2018, turnout at this point in the election cycle was around 22%. So we're actually trending higher in 2018 compared to, in 2022 compared to 2018. It's a bit more difficult to look at some of those demographics by, or some of those turnout numbers by demographics and compare to 2018 because, and this is a good problem, right, is because so many people use things like same-day registration, or they are registering during the early voting period. And if you remember that number, that formula for turnout, you can only figure out your turnout once you have everybody's registration approved and everybody's ballots counted. So these numbers, thank you for this question. This is a helpful reminder. These numbers are unofficial returns, and they will be official after the county canvass, which if you want to help out with the county canvass, we can definitely get you plugged in there.
All right, we have another question. Someone is asking, what is the county canvass?
Oh, great question. So a lot of folks may not realize this, but when you go and cast a ballot, the only things that we see as voters is getting the ballot, filling it out, maybe use a computer, and then you submit the ballot into the machine, and that might be the last time you see your ballot. Well, that ballot has a journey from being cast by you, the voter, to being officially counted. And this goes through two phases, more or less. Over the next couple of weeks, your ballot will be counted at the county level and officiated at the county level before making it to the state level, where the state will then double check that the county did all of their counting correctly, that everybody is verified voter, registered voter, and making sure that every ballot is counted at the statewide canvass in 2 weeks. So yeah, the statewide canvass, there's a ton more that I could go into that we don't have time for today. So again, I'm going to ask that y'all check out our website, because we are looking for volunteers to help monitor the Canvas monitoring program. And that is at demnc.co/canvas. All right, so thank you so much for your questions today and for your attention. We have another press conference at 6 p.m. and we hope to see you all there.